Drift away. Maybe you want to drift away all the way back to the 1970s when he did that song. And I don't know, artificial intelligence was just something that we imagined in a sci-fi world. But now it's such a part of our lives, from the photos and videos that you scroll through on social media to the music that you hear sometimes. And so much of the discussion around artificial intelligence is on the fears around it, the pitfalls, the worries. But what about the good that it can do and is already doing? Craig Doran is a former Queensland police detective, and he's the founder of Comtrac, an AI platform designed to help manage investigations into serious crimes involving children. And we will, in this conversation, discuss child exploitation, but we won't be discussing it in any graphic way, so feel free to keep the radio on while the kids are listening. He's been speaking today at a major conference being held here on the Gold Coast and talking about how AI can help police investigations into child exploitation cases. Craig joins me in the studio. Hi, Craig.
Hello, thanks for having me.
What can AI do? Because we always say, you know, we want human intelligence over artificial intelligence, but what can AI do that human intelligence can't in this very important field?
Yeah, so look, I think one of the key things, and the space that we're really focused on, is trying to streamline the administrative side of things of investigations. It's not just police, it's like it's any agency that runs investigations, because they're the things that impact their frontline capacity. You know, they can't move on to the next job or respond to the next incident because they're offline for hours and hours doing paperwork and sort of things. And sometimes there are changes in legislation, and certainly with this Reportable Conduct Scheme, where it makes it confusing for new entities that have to work around it, and how do they actually evolve, where you can use AI to help them write those reports and to try and navigate through the obligations they have to report these types of incidents.
Yeah, let's talk about that Reportable Conduct Scheme. And this goes back to a very well-known case in Australia that people would probably remember the name of a former childcare worker, Ashley Paul Griffith. He's currently behind bars for horrendous crimes against children across multiple childcare centres. What difference could AI have made back in the day?
So, I guess AI is only good as the information it has access to, right? The source of information. I think if you take a step back, where it can really play a big part now relies upon the information and intelligence being gathering, which is really what that Reportable Conduct Scheme is all about. If you look at the case to Ashley Paul Griffiths, there was that report came out called In Plain Sight, and one of the key things about that, it was an examination into early childhood education, the care sector, police services, and the blue card system, and how it operated during that period. But what it found, which is quite concerning, is that Griffith could have been stopped on at least 5 occasions, and they identified more than 18 points where the offending, like if that information had been gathered and provided by those reporting entities like childcare centres, then they probably could have done something at that point in time. So
if there'd been a system that first of all gathered the information and then collated the information.
That's exactly right.
18 red flags that might have saved some children from what happened to them.
Yeah, that's it. And that's exactly right. So one of the things about the Queensland Family and Child Commission, they're looking to build like what they call an intel hub, which is off the back of the Reportable Conduct Scheme. And the whole concept is that these reporting entities, whether childcare centres, schools, anyone deals with children, if there is an incident needs to be reported, then they just gather that information. It doesn't necessarily mean a crime has been committed, but it allows the agency to have access to those red flags that might actually prevent something occurring. But to do that, that's the concept of the Reportable Conduct Scheme, where it'll then impose on these reporting entities to actually provide that information to it, so it does go into that intel hub, and therefore it can be used to prevent those things going forth. You
also, Craig, believe that there is something about the non-human side of AI that is also a benefit here. In what way?
Yeah, so look, I think again, it's about streamlining processes. I mean, so we use what we call explainable AI, a little bit different just your normal large language models. It is AI, but it has a lot of instructions and configurations at the start of it. Says this is how you're going to behave. You can only give us factual information. These are safeguards and guardrails. So if you're creating a report or examining evidence, this is how you behave. It kind of creates that artificial perfect investigator who knows everything about a case. So when it's asked to do something, it's not just doing something to please you like a lot of your AI does. Yeah, it gives you any answer for the sake of giving you a nice polished answer, but it doesn't actually give you the overall objective. So AI can streamline that, be more efficient in creating those reports, which means we can act on them like a lot quicker than we normally could.
Craig Doran is my guest. As I mentioned, he's a former Queensland police detective. What made you go from major crimes, where you were working, to the tech world, Craig?
Well, I guess interesting enough, I tried to create a platform when I was in the police. Had no technical background at all, because what I found is we were doing very protracted investigations that might go for 8 or 12 months, and then we'd be offline for 8 to 12 months just building the brief evidence, which means matters weren't getting to court, victims weren't getting their day in court, so justice wasn't really being served, and it didn't make any sense to me. So the whole concept, especially when the AI sort of ability came in, it allowed us to streamline those reports. So we were building those reports as we progressed through the investigation. So once an arrest was made, those briefs were pretty much ready to go. So we didn't have to wait for months and months of adjournments, waiting for court. It was just it was just ready to submit to the DPP and progress it. So that's like for me, that was really key. It was pretty exciting last year. We won the Telstra Best of Business for Innovation nationally for that, and it was based on exactly that. How do we streamline the criminal justice process by taking away all that administrative burden so we can increase the frontline capacity? And it's not just police. It's like there are multiple agencies that, whether it's environmental regulators, health regulators, transport, and so forth.
Yeah, and multiple disciplines working in this particular area, this crucial area. I know I've got parents listening now of young children, grandparents of young children, older children now who've aged out of that, and you hope they got through it okay. Sometimes we're not even sure that that's happened. It's a parent's worst fear to be, I think it's their worst fear.
Yeah, it is.
Is that something, particularly in a place like childcare, or in a place that you have trusted your child to, and then something happens in terms of exploitation. What about the people that are at this conference? I mean, you said there's hundreds, I believe, that are here on the Gold Coast for this. Yeah, well,
they come from all over the world, all the various agencies that are responsible for the exploitation of children. It's a real interesting conference. There's some real interesting tech that comes along from overseas and Australian-based technologies as well, about how they assist those agencies to track down that information they'll use to identify and prosecute. And of course, our space is basically, we are working with those reporting agencies in that Reportable Conduct Scheme, because you got to understand, these agencies, the legislation has now said you will conduct your own investigations and report back to the for in Queensland it's the QFCC, but these entities don't have the skill sets to do investigations. So what we're trying to do with them is like create the platform so the AI, they just have to gather the information, then the AI will then examine it and then create an unbiased view of what that interim investigation report could look like. Because you've got to realise these entities, they've been asked to investigate people that they work with colleagues, which will always, no matter how you put it, there'll be a certain level of bias that they will always have. They may well go, well, that can't be right. I've worked with this person for years. This is a great person. So the AI then can ignore all that and just look at the information gathered, and then it can create the interim investigation report. So it's not as painstaking review for those reporting entities. Yeah,
well, there's great fear, and rightly so, around the use of AI in the exploitation material itself and deep fakes and the like. But it is good to know that we can still use AI for some good as well, particularly in this area that is just so crucial, and amazing to think we've got hundreds of people dedicated to this space right here on the Gold Coast at the moment. Founder of Comtrac and former Queensland Police Detective Craig Doran joining me here in the studios on Drive. Thanks so much, Craig.
You're welcome.
91.7 ABC Gold Coast. Traffic.
Brad, how are we looking on the roads at 22?
The northbound being